What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Waking Up with West, episode 2 here. It is the first episode of a new week, so we are recording here Monday evening to release Tuesday morning. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. Today we will be talking about a few different things. Today we'll be talking about the college football games over the weekend as well as the NFL games. We'll definitely touch on the Blazers. And that'll probably be about it for this. I really just want to touch on the games this weekend. If there are a few different, other sports or things that pop up in my head throughout the video, I'll make sure to think about them. I'll make sure to vocalize them. But I've written down the key games, the key storylines from this weekend from the NFL and college football, as well as the Blazers. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to Rip City Rundown. This, again, is a new show that we're doing where it's going to give us the ability to expand beyond the Blazers. We'll definitely talk about the Ducks most of these episodes, at least while the college football season is still going on. But really, this show gives us an avenue or a way to talk about college football, the NFL, and pretty much the NBA as a whole, although we won't be talking about that much today. But yeah, it'd mean the world if you guys could subscribe. We would appreciate that very much. Of course, Rip City Rundown will still be coming out, every Wednesday afternoon. We'll record those Tuesday nights. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this show and it'll grow. And, again, we'll get Cody and Cole on here, maybe even a couple other guests on this show as the weeks go on. So enough for the intro. Let's jump into the Blazers. So the Blazers, since our last show, which would have been Friday morning, the Blazers only played one game, and that was against the Lakers. Of course, hashtag beat LA. The Blazers lost. Again, though, and I mentioned this in the first episode, the Blazers losing this game is not bad because, again, where our goals are for this season is probably not playoff-oriented. We probably have a higher interest in losing, quite frankly, as tough as that is to say. But we're still being competitive. The Blazers are still competing, and different guys are showing up and proving that they belong in the NBA, or giving Joe Cronin, general manager of the Blazers, giving Joe Cronin a look, giving Joe Cronin multiple options to give him multiple options so that Joe Cronin can think about how he wants to shape this roster in the future. So that's the silver lining or the positives coming out of these games. Of course, the negative part is we're losing. No one likes to lose, but we're seeing more from players that wouldn't be getting a chance if the Blazers had an intention to win as many games as possible. Before I dive into the Laker game specifically, just a couple housekeeping things on the Blazers front. Scoot Henderson and Ant are still out. I believe Scoot is for sure going to be out another few weeks, which is unfortunate, but it gives guys like Shaedon Sharpe just the biggest runway possible to continue to get as many reps and play as many minutes as the coaching staff deems fit for him. Robert Williams had a successful surgery today. He is out for the season. That is also really unfortunate because he was a guy that health is the number one concern and the number one priority for Robert Williams, Time Lord, as we like to call him, and Boston fans like to call him. But, seeing him go down is tough because injury was, like I said, the number one concern, and that was the thing that people were worried about when we traded for him. So hopefully this is just a cleanup surgery, which they're saying it is, but hopefully it is just something that just keeps them out of this year and isn't a reoccurring thing, because we know the big man and their history in Portland. It's not too flattering, to say the least. But Robert Williams is out for the year. So that was another kind of big piece of news that came out, I believe, today. Let's jump into the Lakers game. Admittedly, I did not sit through this entire game because I hate it when we play the Lakers, and I'll tell you why. The Lakers shot 37 free throws. The Blazers shot 9. Go figure. the Lakers get to shoot free throws because they're the darlings of the league. The Blazers didn't. And I know what you're saying if you're not a Blazer fan and you're watching this. The Blazers have been shooting a lot of free throws to start the year. But we have been doing that because we've been attacking the basket relentlessly because we can't shoot. The Lakers just dump it into AD. He flails. He gets his calls. He shot 12 free throws. The Lakers as a whole, 30 of 37 from the line. The Blazers 7 of 9. When you pick up 23 points from the foul line alone, you're probably going to win the game. And the Lakers only won by like 3. And the Blazers were there, and they were in it. But, it's hard to make up 23 points from the line. Those types of stats, or from the line at least, is giving me vibes of the 2020 playoff in the bubble when the Lakers literally just had a parade to the foul line because the NBA felt the need to give LeBron a championship. That is not necessarily a true statement. That was the Blazer fan in me. In reality, the Lakers did earn that, but it's still just giving me deja vu to when the Lakers just obliterated us from the free throw line. Enough on the free throws. The players of the game for the Blazers are not going to be who you think. Yes, Jeremy Grant had 23 points, but the two other guys, Skylar Mays, 15 points, 12 assists. He is a player that is so just fascinating to me because when you look at him, and this could be unfair, but when you look at certain guys, sometimes you can be like, wow, that guy looks like an NBA player. Skylar Mays, not that he doesn't look like an NBA player, but he doesn't look like Shaedon Sharpe or Ant, someone who's just hyper wingspan, super jumpy, super athletic. Skylar Mays just kind of looks like an average, fringe basketball player in the NBA, which is fine, but my man can ball. 15 points, 12 assists. You don't get 12 assists by just not knowing what you're doing because the Blazers can't shoot like that. So, he probably played a healthy amount of minutes, and I believe he did, but 15 and 12 against the Lakers, who have a pretty solid defense. I know LeBron didn't play, but still have a solid defense. That is something to write home about, and that's something to watch is Skylar Mays. And that's what I'll touch on this in the Rip City Rundown podcast Wednesday, is, this season is going to offer, us fans a chance to, see guys who we wouldn't usually see and kind of see the silver linings in these guys like Skylar Mays or Duop Reith, who I'm going to mention now. He had 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 8 from 3. I'm not going to lie. Did not anticipate his shot profile. I know it's been one game, but I did not expect him to be a heavy 3-point shooter. But I'm wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong because, it's cool to see him embrace that, and he shot it well, 3 of 8. 11 points, 3 and 3 in your first game. Again, very solid, very happy for Skylar, and very happy for Duop because those are guys that are fringe guys, and they're making their mark. And it doesn't matter, is Skylar Mays going to be playing, clutch minutes for the Blazers in 4 years in the playoffs? Probably not. If he does, great, because that means he's earned it, but, probably not. But still, it's cool to see guys like this in a season that is probably not going to be defined by wins and losses have success. So that was cool to see. Cool to see in the box score, 15 and 12 from Skylar and 11 3 and 3 on 3 threes from Duop Reith. So congrats to them. Next up for the Blazers have lost 3 straight after winning 3 straight after losing 3 straight. I don't know if you follow there, you got me. We're 3 and 6, lost our first 3, won our next 3. Vibes were good, lost our next 3. But they've all been pretty close to competitive. So, I'm not too upset. But next up is an in-season tournament game against the Jazz. And I don't care if you're trying to win a championship or if you're trying to get the first overall pick. In-season tournament games, every team wants to win these, and I anticipate the Blazers to go for it. I anticipate Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton to all play healthy minutes. And yeah, hopefully we can defeat the Jazz because, the Jazz are a team, as I'm looking here at the schedule, the Jazz are a team that, you could say is in a similar spot than us. They're really not projected to go to the playoffs. And they have, they're probably a touch farther along than us in terms of the pieces that they have. Lauri Markkanen was a borderline all-star last year. But regardless, an in-season tournament game, I'm curious to see the Jazz court. I'm curious to see the turnout in Utah. That'll be interesting. But the Blazers need to be going for it. The Blazers need to be going for a win. Go, in a season where you're not going to compete for an NBA title, compete for an in-season tournament title. Who gives? That's the Blazers roundup there. Let us jump into the Oregon Ducks. We can jump into Beavers too, but let's jump into the Ducks first. Oregon takes care of business. They beat USC at home 36-27. In my opinion, the final score did not indicate how, not lopsided, but how the gap between these two teams. Oregon thoroughly dominated. Oregon imposed their will both on the ground with Bucky Irving and just literally just Bo Nix just picking this USC defense apart. And I wrote down, Bo Nix was surgical. Okay, he threw for over 400 yards, threw for four touchdowns. Bo Nix is a certified Heisman candidate. Do I think he will win? Unfortunately, no. Just because I feel like he just hasn't had that insane performance that like Penix has had to start the year. When Penix was throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. And also the Pac-12 has its own like shtick when it comes to the national media. So you could see like a guy like Jaden Daniels from LSU, Jordan Travis from Florida State. There are plenty of guys who, even Caleb Williams, but probably not anymore. There are guys back in, the SEC or the Big Ten, Marvin Harrison Jr., for example, that might get a little more love from the national media because, the Pac-12 has always been the kind of the fifth conference out of the Power Five, which is unfair because the Pac-12 has been, they're the conference of champions. They're conference of champions, Pac-12 has the most championships in Division I sports out of all the Power Fives. And out of all the conferences. Back to Oregon, that was a little tangent. Bucky Irving, over 100 yards rushing. He is, in my opinion, one of the best rushers in the country. And the defense played well. I know USC scored 27, but you held Caleb Williams to only 1 touchdown passing, and you held the rushing attack for USC to under 100 yards or around 100 yards. Maybe it was a little above, but still, USC has been putting up obscene numbers on the offensive side of the ball. We're not going to, forget about the fact that their defense gives you as much resistance as a piece of paper trying to stop a rock avalanche. That's how much resistance the USC defense has been giving teams this year. But again, just this game for me, and this is a compliment to Oregon, the game was just never really interesting, I guess you could say. Yes, Tez Johnson on the second play, third play from scrimmage, 77 to the house. Troy Franklin to the house the next possession. Yes, there were exciting moments, but Oregon just made this game kind of uninteresting from a who's going to win type of standpoint. And that's what you want in great teams, So that's a compliment to Oregon. It literally felt like, another day at the office for the Ducks because, the defense, just was solid, did their thing, and Bo Nix was surgical. Bo Nix was literally just dicing it up like a chef. Oregon next up is going to have Arizona State on the road. Then they have Oregon State at home in the rivalry game. And then most likely Washington in the Pac-12 title game. And if they can go 3-0, Oregon should be in the college football playoff in the last year of the Pac-12, which would be amazing. I want to give Oregon a warning because Oregon State is going to Washington this week. And that is I saw the spread early. It's Oregon State minus 0.5. Washington's going to be in a dogfight. Oregon's going to Arizona State. It is so easy for Oregon to look ahead to the Oregon State game and then possibly the Washington game. That's always in the back of your mind. Oregon's about 22-point favorites against Arizona State. I don't care. And like Dan Lanning said in those short films after each game, it's Oregon versus Oregon. It does not matter who's on the other side of the ball or on the other side of the field. It is Oregon versus Oregon. And every week you're competing against yourself. That's why Bo Nix didn't sound, super thrilled after beating USC. He was like, we left some plays out there. We weren't as crisp as we needed to be. Because Bo Nix in Oregon doesn't see 36-27. They see we left points on the board. We didn't play as well as we could have because they're competing against themselves. which is a fantastic mindset, and is why I think Oregon's going to win the Pac-12 and get in the playoff, because I think they're the most balanced team in the Pac-12. I think Oregon and the Oregon-Washington Part 1, when Oregon lost, I think, I'm not going to say it was fluky, but Oregon definitely had the inside track to win that game. And a couple spotty play calls, maybe spotty decisions. Of course, spotty kicking was the nail in the coffin for Oregon in that game. But the Ducks, I'm telling you, this was a sneaky test. USC had just come off losing 3 of their last 4. Everyone thought they were out of it. They just fired their DC, but they still have Caleb Williams in an electric offense, and it's a 7:30. It's a 10:30 on the East Coast. People are like, snooze fest, Oregon wins. It's not that. You gotta show up and compete. Oregon did. So very happy for Oregon. Quick talk on Oregon State. Like I said, they got Washington. Big game because actually, let me check the standings here and see if Oregon State has a chance to get into the Pac-12 championship. Because if they can, that makes this game just immense. Oregon State has 2 losses in the conference, and then they still have Washington and Oregon. Oregon State would have to beat both Washington and Oregon and hope that Oregon. Actually, no, and then I think hope Arizona loses. The tiebreakers I'm a little unsure about, but still a massive game because Washington can still get to the playoff with a loss if it's not to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, or it's not in the Pac-12 championship. If they lose to Oregon State this week, and then still make the Pac-12 championship, the winner will still probably go with 1 loss. But for Oregon State, they have 2 losses, but this is your chance. You have Washington, Oregon. I know their coaching staff in the locker room is fired up because they have everything in front of them. Technically, they can still make the Pac-12 championship game. Massive game this weekend there. Let's exit the Pac-12. Let's go around the country. Yeah, UGA dismantles Ole Miss. Just dismantled them. It was 14-14, and then it was 50-14. Georgia is just a machine. I can't say enough good things about them. In fact, it's quite annoying, and I mean that as a compliment, because I attended Clemson, as you can see by the paw. But I went to high school in Georgia, and a lot of my friends, a lot of people I knew went to college in Athens to Georgia. And, all I see on my social media or, talking to people is go Dogs, go Dogs. It's annoying, but they are just a machine, and they're just fantastic. And they've lost so much talent to the NFL, but they are still here dismantling teams. We can debate if Ole Miss is a top 10 team. I think that's a fair debate. It doesn't matter. They got smoked by 40. So I'm not taking anything away from Georgia. They have a road game to Tennessee, which could be another sneaky one. But at this point, are you ever going to bet against Georgia? Washington got by Washington got by Utah. That was actually a closer game than maybe some people thought. Maybe Utah could be reeling after that Oregon just smackdown. But again, Washington doesn't necessarily pass the eye test, because this is about the 4th game in the last 6 or so where they've kind of struggled to put teams away. They've struggled to really separate. They won against Arizona State without an offensive touchdown. So Washington, credit to them that they keep finding ways to win, but they're walking on an edge where I wouldn't be surprised if they go into Corvallis and get beaten by Oregon State. And DJ came from Clemson, so we gotta support the boy DJ. Uyunglele. Finally, Michigan beats Penn State. Are we really surprised by that? I was talking to Cole about this game, maybe tossing a few bucks on it, but I didn't, because I didn't want to take the points with Michigan. But of course, Penn State's not going to win that game. When's the last time Penn State won a big game like that? Moons ago. James Franklin cannot win the big one at Penn State. Michigan, the train keeps chugging. And the Ohio State train and the Michigan train will collide in a few weeks, and that will be, of course, the biggest game of the season, as it typically is for both teams. We don't need to get into the scandal with Michigan. I think everyone's up to speed on that, but I think Jim Harbaugh is trying to appeal and get back on the sideline for those games. So I'll give you an update on that on Friday. College football playoff update, no change really. The one thing I want to see tomorrow when the committee reveals their rankings is, will Oregon stay as the best one-loss team? I anticipate they will. I don't think any team behind them that has one loss did enough to jump Oregon, which is key, because if Oregon stays the top one-loss team, then if they win the Pac-12, they theoretically should be in, because Michigan and Ohio State still have to play each other, and then Florida State, Georgia, I'm assuming they're not going to lose. That is the college football roundup. Let's jump into the NFL to finish here. The NFL had a crazy weekend. I'm a Giants fan, so we'll start there. The Giants are lifeless. They're dead. They have no life left in their body. It's Caleb Williams watching New York. Tommy DeVito is starting. Love the guy. He obviously doesn't have it, which is fine. Caleb Williams is going to be the guy that Giants fans talk about for the next little bit, unless for some reason he doesn't go number one, which we all know he will. So it's all about getting the number one pick. But the Cowboys just beat the living daylights out of the Giants. And I wrote down, are the Cowboys the favorite in the NFC? It's going to be very easy to overreact to winning 49-17 against my hapless Giants. But you got to ask the question, because if not the Cowboys, then who? Well, you have the Eagles. They just beat the Cowboys, so, very easy to say the Eagles, but they still got to play again, and the Eagles have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. Like, their next 5 games are against arguably, Super Bowl contenders. And then the Lions. You could say the Lions, but, I don't know. The Lions didn't wow me this week against the Chargers. Their defense wasn't great. The Cowboys definitely have a better defense than the Lions. The question is, can Dak keep playing the way he is? Because the Lions' offense is probably better than the Cowboys' offense, I would say. But it's a fair question, and I hate the Cowboys. But the Cowboys, this could be their year. The other thing I wrote down is the AFC North is insane. The Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, all 4 of those teams could legitimately win the division and legitimately make the playoffs as a wild card. All of them. The Browns beat the Ravens in a wacky game, and the Steelers took care of business against the Packers, and the Bengals dropped to the Texans, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's crazy that in my opinion, that it's the best division in football. It's the most entertaining one. You have Lamar and Joe Burrow, so you have the offense. You have Mark Andrews. You have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. But you also have the defense. That Browns defense, that Steelers defense, the Ravens defense. The AFC North is entertaining, and every time there's a divisional matchup, I'm always watching it because it's just fascinating to see, sort of similar styles, but, the Ravens, they pound the rock, and then they let Lamar work. The Bengals are all in on the Joe Burrow train. The Browns and the Steelers are trying to win with bottom 8 quarterbacks right now. Deshaun Watson has not been playing well, but their TJ Watt is ridiculous. Myles Garrett is ridiculous. So it's just cool to see. Literally, the Browns have a horrible offense. They lost Nick Chubb. Legit defense. They could win the division. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate, easily could win the division. Bengals could easily win the division after starting 0-3. And who would be shocked if the Steelers won the division? Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the league. So the AFC North is insane. It's awesome. I love it. Finally, C.J. Stroud, kind of a little college to NFL, little segue in a sense. C.J. Stroud, he has been looking good. He's in the MVP conversation, guys. And that is not an overreaction. He's not going to win unless they go undefeated the rest of the way. And he keeps concocting these late drives. But just the gap between his performances versus Bryce's performance is wild. And it's tough because I hate comparing players, but number 1, number 2 picks, you'll always compare, especially at the same position. But C.J. Stroud has been balling. And it is funny how Bryce Young's only win was against C.J. Stroud. That's just kind of funny, how? Because outside of that game, the Panthers are just awful. And the Texans have some juice with DeMeco Ryans. I don't know. Stroud is coming off a 470-yard passing day, 5 touchdowns, and he's just coming off a duel Joe Burrow, which he won. I don't know. CJ Stroud and the Texans can make some noise here coming down the stretch. I don't think their schedule is overly difficult. I think CJ Stroud has the necessary weapons to be successful. Dalton Schultz has kind of like revived his career in a sense. I thought he'd kind of phase out after leaving the Cowboys. Tank Dell's got juice. Nico Collins has juice. I mean, these guys, Noah Brown, like these are guys at the beginning of the year who you'd be like, I mean, someone's got to be the number one, but they're all playing like a number one. I mean, they're all going for over 100 yards every game, I feel like. So the Texans are a team to watch coming down the stretch, and CJ Stroud is the QB to watch because he has been killing it. Folks, I believe that is all I have. It will be a shorter show today. We will be back on Friday to discuss more Blazers and get back to the NBA, discuss our teams of the week, discuss what is going on in the league, what teams are succeeding, what teams are failing, what players are playing well, what players are not. We'll also, do a Friday segment, Dumb Tweets, Dumb Comments, where I scour the internet for the dumbest comments that I can find and highlight them here so you guys can all laugh at them with me. And then, maybe, just maybe, we'll try to get Cole on here, maybe do some trivia. Make sure to follow our Instagram, Rip City Rundown. That's our Blazer page. Make sure to follow the TikTok. We're kind of blowing up a little bit. We're doing some trivia on there, some NBA content. Of course, when we're doing a college thing where, Cole will tell me where the starting five of the team went to college, and I have to guess the team. I try to not get it right away, even though I know what it is, so I can elongate the video. But of course, if I take 5 or more seconds, I get called a casual or I don't know ball. So thanks for that. It doesn't matter, but make sure to go watch those because, apparently they're really easy, but who knows? Of course, tune in to Rip City Rundown tomorrow if you want to see some Blazer content. That is weekly. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. We're still only episode 2. We got a while to go here. We will be doing this every Tuesday, every Friday will be the episodes, and hopefully we get into a nice rhythm and you guys enjoy it. And you guys comment down below what you want me to talk about. It could be F1, it could be NASCAR, it could be golf, it could be this new golf league that Tiger's starting up. It could be, do I think Tiger will win a major again? It could be whatever. Comment down below what you want me to talk about, whenever, and I'll make sure to read it and throw it into the queue of what I want to discuss for that episode that day. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you Friday. Peace.